When people leave you, especially those you love, it's not always a reflection of their weakness. Sometimes, and more often than would like to admit, it's a painful mirror held up to your own life. People don't just walk away at 70 because of the number. They walk away because over time you became someone hard to be around. And if that stings, it should. Because the truth is sharp, but it's also the only thing that can wake you up. If you stop taking responsibility for yourself, others begin to step away, not because they don't care, but because you've signaled to them, sometimes without words, that you've given up. This happens gradually. It starts when you stop grooming yourself. You don't shave as often. You stop wearing clothes that reflect any care or pride. You move less. You start telling yourself that it doesn't matter anymore, that nobody's watching, that you've earned the right to stop trying. And while it might feel justified at first, it sends a quiet but powerful message to everyone around you. I'm not someone worth investing in. That message lands deeper than you think. Your spouse sees it, your kids see it, your friends notice. They start to feel a shift, not necessarily in what you say, but in how you carry yourself. They come over and see you slouched on the couch, the same clothes from 3 days ago, the same stories about the past, no curiosity about the present. You might think they're being judgmental, but often what they're really feeling is grief. They're watching you fade, not just physically, but spiritually, and it hurts. It hurts them in a way that makes them want to avoid it, because being around you becomes a reminder of decline rather than connection. It's not about vanity, it's about dignity. When you care for yourself, your body, your space, your energy, you're showing the people around you that life still matters to you, that you still matter to you. And when they see that, they're more likely to lean in. It's not about being young again. No one expects you to be the person you were at 30. But there's a world of difference between aging and decaying. Aging can be graceful, powerful, even magnetic. But decay is what happens when you let go of the small daily acts of responsibility that remind you who you are. And here's the paradox: the more you take responsibility for yourself, the more support people want to give you. The stronger you try to stand, even if your body is weak, the more people want to hold you up. They respond to your effort, not your condition. They rally around your willingness. They admire your refusal to surrender to apathy. And that admiration is the foundation of meaningful presence. People don't just want to help someone who's helpless. They want to be close to someone who's still fighting, still reaching, still choosing to live fully and on purpose. Bitterness is rarely loud. It creeps in slowly, disguised as silent sarcasm or withdrawal. It often starts with small disappointments, being forgotten, being misunderstood, being left out. You tell yourself you're just keeping quiet, not making a fuss, but inside you're collecting the pain like dust in an attic. Over the years, those little moments pile up. And without realizing it, you begin to carry yourself like someone who expects to be hurt, someone who's been wronged by the world. And people around you feel it, even if they can't name it. They feel the coldness in your tone, the heaviness in your presence, the subtle sense that being around you means walking on emotional eggshells. What often follows is emotional isolation, not because people are cruel, but because being near bitterness drains them. You might think you're being honest, but often what you're doing is leaking resentment. Every conversation becomes laced with some reminder of how people have failed you, how the world has changed for the worse, how nothing feels the way it used to. These aren't just opinions, they're signals that you've stopped trusting joy, that you've stopped believing people can meet you where you are. And when people sense that no matter what they do, it won't be enough, they start coming around less. Not because they don't love you, but because they don't know how to help without being pulled into your sadness. It's easy to feel abandoned when this happens. It's even easier to reinforce the story in your head. I knew they'd leave. I knew they didn't care. But the truth is often more complex. Many times people tried. They called, they visited, they offered help. But what they got in return wasn't openness or gratitude. It was resistance. Or worse, guilt. You made them feel like their love wasn't enough. And slowly that became the reality. Love needs space to breathe, and bitterness suffocates it. If you've spent years not talking about what hurt you, if you've trained yourself to stay silent while feeling everything, then the emotions have nowhere to go except outward in subtle hostility. You might not even notice you're doing it. A comment here, a sigh there, a tone that shuts the door before anyone even speaks. And all of that builds a wall around you. A wall no one wants to climb because they tried before and it only made them feel worse. So they stopped trying, not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. Change doesn't ask for permission, it just arrives. It doesn't care how long you've lived, how much you've seen, or how deeply you're rooted in your ways. And yet many people reach a certain age and begin to resist it entirely. They tell themselves the world has gone mad, that things were better before, that the past holds all the wisdom and the present is a mess. And maybe there's some truth to that. But clinging to what was while refusing to engage with what is slowly cuts you off from the people still moving forward, especially the younger ones, your children, your grandchildren, even your peers who chose to grow instead of retreat. If every conversation becomes a lecture on how things used to be, it's no longer a conversation. It's a monologue. And people stop listening, not because they don't respect your experience, but because they don't see you making any effort to understand theirs. Relationships are a two-way street. It's not just about being heard. It's also about being willing to listen, to learn, to adapt. If you reject everything new out of habit, you start to look like someone stuck in time. And no one wants to visit a museum that only plays the same story on repeat. This doesn't mean abandoning your values or pretending to like things you don't. It means being curious, asking questions instead of offering judgments, trying something unfamiliar, even if it's small, like learning to use a smartphone without frustration or showing interest in your granddaughter's job you don't understand. It's not about mastering every detail. It's about showing that you care enough to try. And that trying sends a message, I still want to connect. I still want to be a part of this world. People drift away not because they've changed, but because you refuse to meet them where they are. You expected them to come to you on your terms, in your language, in your world. But connection requires movement both ways. When you don't move, when you don't adapt, you force them to choose between growing and staying with you. And that's an unfair choice because they want you in their lives. They just don't want to shrink themselves to do it. Adaptation is a form of love. It says, you matter enough to me that I'll step outside my comfort zone. When you stop adapting, you stop saying that. And slowly, people stop hearing anything from you at all. Gratitude is not just a feeling. It's a posture, a way of being in the world that radiates warmth and makes people feel seen, valued, and appreciated. When you lose that posture, even quietly, people around you feel the difference. They might not say it, but they notice when their efforts go unacknowledged, when their presence is taken for granted, or when their kindness is met with complaints instead of thanks. And over time, the absence of gratitude feels like a rejection, even if that was never your intention. Generosity works the same way, and it has very little to do with money. Some of the most generous people give not dollars, but attention, encouragement, time, stories, wisdom. At a certain age, those gifts become even more powerful because they're rooted in a lifetime of experience. But if you hoard those gifts, If you sit back and expect others to give and give while you offer nothing but criticism or indifference, you create a one-sided relationship that no one wants to stay in. It's easy to fall into that trap, especially when you've worked hard your whole life and you feel like you've earned the right to rest, and you have. But rest is not the same as withdrawal, and peace is not the same as silence. If you want people to stay close, to visit, to call, to care, you have to show them that their presence means something to you, that their effort isn't invisible, that you're still willing to meet them with openness, appreciation, and the kind of emotional generosity that makes people feel like coming back. People don't visit just because of blood ties. They visit because they feel welcomed, because being with you lifts them up or gives them something meaningful. Even if it's just the feeling of being loved and respected. When every interaction becomes a list of complaints, when every visit turns into a reminder of how disappointed you are in the world or in them, it wears on people. They begin to dread the conversations instead of looking forward to them. And eventually they stop coming, not because they don't love you, but because it hurts to feel like their love doesn't matter. The truth is, people gravitate toward gratitude. They move toward light. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be endlessly cheerful. But when you make a habit of saying thank you, of noticing the good, of offering something kind or thoughtful without being asked, you become someone people want to be around. Not out of duty, but out of genuine affection. Avoiding honest conversations doesn't preserve peace. It only delays the discomfort until it hardens into distance. Over time, silence becomes the loudest message in the room. The things that were never said, the apologies never offered, the questions never asked, those are the things that start to shape your relationships more than anything you actually did or said. People begin to feel like there's a wall between them and you, one they don't know how to climb because it was built without any explanation. Brick by quiet brick. Many people believe that time will heal everything, but time alone does nothing without courage. If you haven't spoken to your son in years, if your daughter only calls out of obligation, if a sibling feels like a stranger, there's likely a truth sitting between you that no one's been willing to face. And at some point, someone has to go first. That might be you. That probably should be you, not because you're to blame for everything, but because healing has to start somewhere, and waiting for someone else to make the first move just allows resentment to fester longer. We often avoid these conversations because we're afraid of what we might hear or what we might have to admit. Maybe we were too harsh. Maybe we missed a moment that really mattered. Maybe we said something we didn't realize cut as deeply as it did. Or maybe we just didn't show up when we were needed. Those are hard truths to hold. But without naming them, without shining a light on the moments that broke the connection, there's no way to repair it. And the damage from that avoidance isn't just emotional, it's generational. The people who stop talking to you also teach their children how to deal with conflict, how to handle distance, how to decide when to let go. If you want to change that cycle, it starts with facing the silence. Pick up the phone, write the letter, ask the hard question. Can we talk about what happened? It might not fix everything immediately, but it opens the door. And sometimes that's all people have been waiting for, a sign that you're willing to face the truth with them, not just alone. The people who seem most distant often carry the deepest desire for reconciliation, but they've learned to live without it because they've had to. If you can be the one who brings honesty back into the relationship, even with trembling hands, you offer something far more powerful than an apology. You offer hope. When you stop having a sense of purpose, people can feel it. There's a difference between someone who is simply existing and someone who is still living. And that difference is usually purpose. It's what gives your presence meaning beyond habit or obligation. It's what makes conversations feel alive rather than routine. When people feel that you're just waiting for the days to pass, they start to disengage, not out of cruelty, but because something essential feels missing. Your spark. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't require a career, a platform, or an audience. It might be as simple as mentoring a younger family member, writing down your stories, tending to a garden, volunteering once a week, or reading something new every day so you always have something to share. These small commitments breathe life into your routine. They give your days shape and meaning, and people are naturally drawn to that kind of energy. It tells them that you're still here, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Without purpose, conversations start to wither. You repeat the same memories, you dwell on regrets, you talk more about the past than the present or future, and while nostalgia can be beautiful, too much of it starts to feel like a retreat from life. Younger people especially don't know how to engage with someone who seems like they've already stepped out of the world. They want to connect, but if they sense that your life has no forward motion, they struggle to find common ground. People want to feel inspired, even if just a little, when they spend time with someone. Purpose is what allows you to still offer something meaningful to others. Wisdom, warmth, curiosity, encouragement. It's what gives you a reason to ask questions, to stay involved, to keep learning and growing. And that makes you a magnet for connection. People are drawn to those who are still seeking, still becoming, no matter how old they are. When purpose fades, resentment and passivity often take its place. You begin to expect others to entertain you, to initiate every conversation, to make life happen for you instead of with you. That wears people down. It makes them feel responsible for your happiness, and over time they pull away, not because they don't love you, but because love turns heavy when it's not mutual. Finding purpose, again, even in a small, quiet way, changes everything. It shifts how people feel around you. It turns you from a passive figure into a meaningful part of their lives. And people don't leave what feels meaningful. They move toward it. So if you've found yourself wondering why people are drifting away, why even your own family seems distant, don't just look outward, look inward. That's where the answers live. It's not about blaming yourself for everything. It's about realizing that your choices, your habits, your ways of being, they shape the space others have to love you. It's not too late to stand up straighter, to soften your voice, to ask the question you've been avoiding, to say thank you where silence has reigned. It's not too late to be someone who listens, who adapts, who reaches out with curiosity instead of judgment. It's not too late to live with purpose, even if the world seems to be moving on without you. The truth is, people want to be close to you. They want to love you. They want to visit, to call, to laugh with you, to share their lives. But they need to feel like their presence is met with openness, not walls, with dignity, not bitterness, with effort, not resignation. Every day you wake up, you're offered a new chance, not to go back, but to go forward with intention. The people who matter most to you are not beyond reach, but they're waiting for you to meet them halfway. And that step begins with your own courage to change, even now. Thank you for your time, for your attention, and for your willingness to reflect on these difficult but necessary truths. If anything I said today stirred something in you, good. That means there's still life in you, still work to be done, still love to give and receive. Take that seriously. Take yourself seriously. And remember, how you choose to show up in the lives of others, even in your later years, still matters deeply. You are not finished. Thank you. God bless. Stay strong.